Hey PC gamers, welcome back to the PC Gamer Chat Log. I am Lauren Morton.
And hey everyone, I'm Mollie Taylor.
And this week, Mollie and I are going to be wrapping up the year, doing a year in review, looking back at what big games launched, what we thought was going to happen this year. We're going to go over what we discussed in our January episode where we were very early attempting to predict some things would happen this year and seeing just how many of those things we got wrong. It was most of them. We made some wild guesses and this year was an interesting one. So we're gonna be looking back at trends and stuff we did and what the team played and just, having a little nostalgia fest for 2024, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then we have another announcement for the podcast as we look to wrap up this year, is that Chatlog Podcast is going to go on a bit of a hiatus for the beginning of next year. A thing that you will have noticed if you watch us on YouTube specifically, not if you're listening, but if you watch us on YouTube, you'll notice on our channel that we have some new faces. We have more presenters, more editors, people on YouTube because the PC Gamer team grew a little bit this year, which was great. We have actual video presenters and editors. We have a for real video team, which is really exciting. And the great thing about that is that when Mollie and I started this podcast in 2023, almost 2 years ago, 2022?
Yeah, beginning of 2023. We started doing this in 2022. You guys started hearing it in 2023.
In 2023, yeah, that's true. We've been actually doing this for probably 2.5 years. You've been hearing it for almost 2. And it has long been what Mollie and I were able to accomplish with, no time and no budget, essentially. But now that we have all that support, now that we have a proper video team, we're going to put the podcast on pause for a little bit so that everybody involved can take a look at it and how we want to actually utilize all that talent that we have now, because we want the podcast to be even cooler and bigger. And it's hard to do that when Mollie and I are scrambling every week trying to come to you with discussion topics from the team. So we'll be back at an undetermined date with the podcast in an undetermined fashion. We truly don't know. But yeah, Mollie, do you want to add anything? Sorry, that was all me.
No, it's okay. We talk a little bit about it at the end. Which you guys will hear. But hopefully we can come back in whatever capacity that is, a little better, a little bigger. Like Lauren said, we have like a real video team now, which is, something that we didn't necessarily have while we were doing this podcast. So yeah, it's very, very cool. It's exciting to see where like PC Gamer can go with video, and hopefully Chatlog will be a part of that sometime in the future. But yeah, like we did this for 2 years. Somehow we only took a 2-week break in the entire time that we did this, which that was kind of crazy that we managed to do that. So I'm really proud of us, and it'll be cool to see how things shape up in the future.
Yeah, we would otherwise, this time last year, we were like notifying people. We're like, hey, you're about to have 2 weeks off because the site shuts down and we won't be working. So this year, that same announcement, except like slightly longer than 2 weeks. As we said, we don't exactly know what the future holds right now. But with that then announcement out of the way, Mollie, what'd you play last week? Back to the usual.
Yes. Yeah, for the last time, what have I been playing this week? I am still playing Infinity Nikki. That is a thing that I'm still doing. I'm still having a great time. I'm not no-lifing it quite as much as I was when I spoke to you last week. I'm like winding down a little bit. I finished the main story that is in the game
currently
so far.
Released.
Yeah, and I'm mostly at this point just like time gated. There's like certain crafting materials that you can only gather one of like once a day that you need for some stuff, and the like energy, like the stamina as well. A lot of stuff is like very heavily dependent on that. A little too much for my liking, I will say. But I'm like, winding down a little bit. I'm still playing though. And I did say in this episode, I said that I had not played Uncle Chop's Rocket Shop yet. And then like immediately after recording that, I had to go and travel. So I took my Steam Deck, and on my Steam Deck, I played Uncle Chop's Rocket Shop.
Nice.
Yeah, I'm having a good time. It's good. It's like, it's fun. The controls are like a little jank on Steam Deck, like with a controller. It doesn't quite have that same like nice like tactile feeling that it has on PC. But I've played like 8 or 9 hours of it on Steam Deck compared to like 2 or 3 on PC. So like plays well enough for me to enjoy it. I haven't managed to complete a full run yet. I keep getting like something keeps getting in the way. And it's like there's a couple of bugs right now. I think there was a bug that was the reason I wasn't able to finish it. I was on like the final like boss of the run, and I think something bugged out somewhere, which is why I wasn't able to finish it, which was a shame.
Bummer.
But I'm having fun. I'm looking forward to seeing like the updates that Beard Envy does with it, and see where that goes. So yeah, that's what I did. Infinity Nikki, who'd have thought it? And Uncle Chop's Rocket Shop.
I also played Infinity Nikki. I'm going a little bit slower than you. I'm in like chapter 2 or 3 or something like that of the story right now. And still having a good time, still loving sending outfits to my friends, struggling a little bit with that snapshot feature that like you and me and Kara were trying to figure out, like how to actually take photos with your friends. Because as we like explained to people on the website, Infinity Nikki like doesn't really have multiplayer in the way that you would think of multiplayer being yet. There's talk of that in the future, but right now it's just got some sort of like asynchronous like social features basically of like you can take photos with people after they've already taken the photo and they're not there anymore, which is like, it's cute, it's fine. So yeah, there's that. And then I picked up and started playing Neva, the game by the developers of Grease. Is it pronounced Grease or Gris? I don't know
how
you're meant to say Grease. It's by the developers of Grease. And it's one of those side scroll platformers, very beautiful, like painterly art style. It is you and your animal companion, which means that I opened it and was tearing up within 60 seconds, which is unfair and cheating and unsporting. How dare you? I am a few hours into that. I'm expecting it to be like around 4 or 5 hours total. I'm like a little past the midpoint, I think. So I'll wrap that up soon, but enjoying it so far. I don't think it's got puzzles like quite on the level of like Inside or I played Planet of Lana at the end of last year. That one has some like probably closer to Inside, like Play Dead level puzzles. This one is a little bit simpler so far, and I think it's going to stay that way since I've seen a good chunk of it. But it's really pretty, and I love the music, and I'm frightened by the fact that it's all about me and my animal companion because you know what happens with those games. So
we know what happens to those animal companions.
It makes me almost not want to finish it. Don't make me perceive however this game ends, but I will do it. I want to know how it ends. So I've been doing that as well. And I think that's it for this week. So let's go talk about this whole entire year in review. Okay, Molly. So the headline is that this year in gaming was weird, right?
Very weird. So weird. I don't think we could have predicted how weird it was, I guess.
We literally didn't predict it, and we'll get to that part later where we talk about like what we did predict at the beginning of this year during this podcast, but
what we thought this year was going to look like. But it looked weird. I think the biggest thing, right, is that usually I feel like there's 1 or 2 major releases that the year kind of revolves around, you know, like last year it was Baldur's Gate 3 and Starfield. I forget what even came out in 2022 at this point. What did come out in 2022? Oh my goodness.
Not Elden Ring. That was the year before that, right? That
it was Elden Ring in was it 2021 or 2022?
Oh my God.
The years are blending into one, but normally there is
one year it was Elden Ring, and that was definitely, the gravitational pull on the year.
Yeah.
Other years it has been other things. Someday it'll be GTA 6. There's no doubt that whatever year GTA 6 comes out in, it will be the defining part of that year.
Exactly. But there wasn't really that this year. I think maybe the closest we came was Helldivers 2, but I think that was kind of maybe like an unexpected hit. I think people weren't expecting that game to kind of pop off in the way it did. So there wasn't really that build up. And also because it came out so early in the year as well, there wasn't really that chance for build up, right? It came out like the end of January, beginning of February, maybe. And that was a game that a lot of people on team really enjoyed. I know that like people are still playing it, but I feel like there wasn't the build up to the release.
Yeah.
And then because it came so early as well, it was like, oh, well, what's the next 10 months going to look like? And we didn't really have anything to kind of look forward to.
We knew that at the beginning of the year. Like we called that out and we're like, we don't see anything on the calendar that is a this size thing. What is it going to be? And the answer was that, as you said, there wasn't one. And it was more of a year of surprise hits because the first thing we got this year was Pal World, which took over for the month.
For a few weeks.
On the heels of that, was Helldivers. For us personally, and like, I can't tell how widespread Balatro was, but for this team, Balatro was a defining moment. Everybody was playing Balatro. And I feel like there were some other things mixed in there too, of like these like several week to month long. Helldivers 2 was longer than that. That was like 2 to 2.5 months of Helldivers being very dominant. But we got things of that size instead of a Baldur's Gate 3. Which is just, it's a weird feeling. Yeah. It makes for a weird awards season. When we see things like the Elden Ring expansion popping up in, the Game Awards nominations, which people are rightly flagging as unusual and strange and not something that would see in any other year. How did like our other touchstones of the year feel? Like the summer conference season, like what did that feel like? Do you remember? We did a podcast episode about it.
I don't remember what even happened during Summer Game Fest. Oh my goodness. It really has been one of those years that has just felt so weird for games. It's felt like not weird bad necessarily, but just weird in a way where like it hasn't felt like the industry that we've come to know now. I guess it's like, what? Oh my God, girl, what did happen?
Well, so we've seen this trend over the last few years of like consolidation of the industry, right? We've seen big fish, the biggest fish buy other big fish and in ways that we wouldn't have expected. And you would think that would produce like this reliable effect of like dominant stuff every year. And I think we're going to probably return to that in some fashion. But yeah, it was a surprise to see then this year. It's not like Microsoft, who now owns everybody, just blew it out of the water this year or something like that. Like that didn't happen. For better or worse, it really was like all of us, I think on this team felt like we were very much diving into our niches. And we had like the permission and the space to do that. Like I was playing Sims 3 this year. Like that's, which is a ridiculous thing to do in the year 2024. But I was playing the Sims 3 kind of for the first time a lot. And like comedy horror games, they didn't feel as like dominant as when like Phasmophobia first came out, or like Lethal Company was like late last year, right?
Yeah.
But we did get a lot more things like it, and none of them were that size. But there was clearly like, an established audience now for that, with like Content Warning had a 15 minutes of fame. There were some other like weird options thrown in, like Abiotic Factor kind of has that quality, but isn't just that. It's also like crafting and has like some Half-Life inspirations, right? And there were just like other weird games in that style. And people just diving into niches like that.
Yeah. I think so too. Yeah. I think it really has been a year where people have kind of broken off and really like not necessarily stuck to what they know, but I think it's definitely been a year where there's been like a game for everyone, almost like a game that like everyone can enjoy. And that hasn't been the same game. That hasn't necessarily been the same game for everyone, but it's been nice. I think it's been nice to see these little breakout hits like Balatro, like Helldivers 2, like, well, I was going to say like Infinity Nikki, but that's for the, that's maybe
We've
our
said enough
sicko,
about Infinity, Nikki.
our personal sicko, and like also stuff that maybe we were expecting to not be the defining game, but stuff that we were at least expecting to have the few weeks or the months where everyone was revolving around it didn't necessarily happen. Like Dragon's Dogma 2 came out. I feel like that is a game that people forgot about very quickly. And like the Veilguard came out a couple months ago, and people are still like people are still attached to that, but it maybe not in the way that I necessarily remember like Inquisition, like people feeling about that 10 years ago. Like that has felt very different, that response. What else came out this year? Like Dawn Trail, the Final Fantasy expansion didn't quite hit in the way that I thought it might. I think, you know, the story people were not super warm to. So yeah, like stuff that maybe I was expecting to do really well just hasn't, and stuff that I wasn't really paying attention to before, or stuff that I didn't know about, is the stuff that has like really surprised me in a very pleasant way.
Yeah. One thing that we saw happen a lot more this year was games getting delayed and developers just straight up admitting we're getting out of the way of a different game. That started late last year. Like Baldur's Gate 3 did that. It changed its date by like a month or maybe even less to get out of the way of Starfield.
And then Stray Gods, which is like a little musical game, changed its date to get out of the way of Baldur's Gate 3's changed date.
Yeah, and that felt like such a singular example, and like we were just like, oh yeah, sure. Obviously, they don't want to be in the path of Starfield, and then lo and behold, Baldur's Gate 3 steamrolled Starfield. But that felt like it wasn't going to happen again. And now this year, now people are okay with that. Now we just do that. Avowed was like, yeah, we thought Avowed was going to be out this year. I think it was supposed to be for November of this year, maybe. And it is now coming out in February of 2025. And they basically said as much. They're like, we're moving it to give people's backlogs some time. Which is, you know, a nice way of saying like we don't want to compete with other things. And for Microsoft, as mentioned, who has bought a bunch of people, it's them trying not to compete with themselves.
It's funny that they said they're moving to February to not compete, because isn't everything coming out in February?
Now everything's coming out in February. Which is why I've said like I think that trend is going to continue, because someone's going to chicken out of February. Someone's going to everybody is already looking at that window and going, oh no. And someone's going to move their release date to May, and they're going to full out admit that that's why they're doing it. And we've just decided that we're cool with that, which I guess we are. I don't know. I don't
I feel like I am. I'm cool with that. You know,
just admit it. That's fine.
Yeah. Just admit it. And, you know, I had it literally like this month where Infinity Nikki released, and then Path of Exile 2 released, which is not a game that I'm like particularly invested in, but it's a game that I still have like a mild interest in, I guess. And then like this little indie game called Uncle Chop's Rocket Shop, which is a game that I've been looking forward to. You've been excited for 2.5 years. It released the same day as Infinity Nikki. Have I touched Uncle Chop's Rocket Shop yet? No. And it's a game that I was looking forward to for so long, and all of a sudden I've just got like everything releasing.
You're going to do it over break. I believe in you.
Yeah, I'll do it over break. But like that's why I like it when developers are just like, maybe we won't release the same time as this big game. Like, great for you, but also kind of great for me as well. Even if I'm not necessarily invested in like the game that it's trying to get out of the way of, I guess.
Yeah. I thought about this as well, that like PC gaming this year felt like we're fully now invested in this like multi-platform life, right? Because of the Steam Deck. Obviously that started last year, no question about that, but it feels now the Steam Deck isn't new anymore. Now it's just a part of this ecosystem. Years. Yeah. And it feels very assumed. It feels very like this is not another Steam box or whatever it was called situation. I think the Steam Deck has proven that PC gamers will buy in that format, will buy mobile. So yeah, that's just like the new reality for PC gaming. And that's cool. That's really exciting. The question for so long when when like a cool indie game, like a cool like cozy game, something like that came out on PC, people would ask, when are you releasing a Nintendo Switch version? Because people would want to play it on the Nintendo Switch. And like, we don't need to ask that question anymore. I haven't heard that question in a while, because you can put it on your Steam Deck. So that's a great feeling.
It's pretty cool. And you and I both bought Steam Decks
got one.
within like days of each other, right? Yeah. We both bought. I think I bought one and then you bought one, maybe like.
You were the last straw of my FOMO. Like everybody else on the team had like kind of gotten one. A lot of people had. And then when you did, I was like, it's time.
It's time to buy one. Yeah. And we both bought Steam Decks and we had mentioned it and we did an episode on it, actually. We did an episode on like owning a Steam Deck. And what do you think, like, after, it's been almost a year for both of us since we both had our Steam Deck. How are you feeling about it?
Still good. It goes in seasons for me. Like I think I like go through phases of, depending on what I'm playing, whether I want to be sitting here at my desk playing something or whether I want to be on the couch next to my partner watching a TV show. And that like totally depends on like what TV shows are hot right now and what is being watched and like, or like what games are hot right now and if they like feel right on my deck. So yeah, I think I'm not playing it a lot right now, but there are like months where I do and I'm like away from my desk a lot. So yeah. How about you?
I'm kind of the same. I like went all in on it in like January and then I didn't touch it as much over the next couple months. And then I came back to it again when Fields of Mystria came out and I played like a bunch of Fields of Mystria. And then I, once again, didn't touch it for a little bit. And then I had a 14-hour flight and I played like a ton of, it was like around the time that the Kingdom Hearts collection finally got put on Steam. So I played like a ton of Kingdom Hearts and that felt really cool, actually. Like Kingdom Hearts is a game that I grew up with. It's a series that, like, despite all of its existence, just despite the way it is, it's a game that I really enjoy. It's a series that means a lot to me, and it was kind of weird like holding the Steam Deck and being like my childhood game is in this little box right now. So yeah, and then I ended up playing it a lot again and then again, dropped it for a little bit, and then Metaphor came out, which again was a game that I love. Atlas and I love the Persona games. Metaphor was a game that was only kind of on my radar. And then I ended up playing it because it came out around my birthday when I wasn't, when I had a little bit of time off. And I played all of that exclusively on my Steam Deck. I streamed it through the PC onto the Steam Deck because I didn't want to sit at my desk. I wanted to sit on the couch. I wanted to play it on the TV. I feel like, I don't know, I love a good JRPG. I feel like one of the factors in why I haven't played as many in recent years is because I feel like sitting at your desk is the worst way to play a JRPG. You gotta be cozy. You gotta be grinding away at like on the couch with a blanket or something. I don't know. And yeah, I finished all of it. I played all of it on the Steam Deck. I had a fantastic time. I don't think I would have finished it had I not owned a Steam Deck. Quite frankly, I think I would have like fallen off it a few hours in, not because of the game, just because of the conditions in which I'm playing it, right? So yeah, and then recently, for the first time, my boyfriend wanted to try the Steam Deck when he was visiting, because I've like offered a few times and he's been like, no, it's okay. And then I offered and he was like, you know what, go on then, I will. And he's a Dark Souls sicko. Okay, we're talking like 4,000-5,000 hours across the trilogy, like real sicko level. And he installed Dark Souls. I forget if it was Dark Souls 1 or 2. And now, like, every time he's round, he's on the Steam Deck. He's either playing it handheld or he's got it docked. And now he keeps saying, he's like, I really want one of these. Yeah, I really want a Steam Deck. And I'm like, that's how they get you. He wants to like get into the emulation stuff as well, because the Steam Deck is very good for emulation. I didn't say that, but the Steam Deck is very good for emulation, and he wants to like kind of get into all of that with it now as well. So I think he's just waiting until he can buy one.
This year also, it feels like constantly in PC gaming, or gaming in general, but like especially in PC gaming, we always have like some kind of contentious tech that we're battling. It was blockchain games, which you don't hear about anymore, really. It was metaverse as a concept, which that fell off fast enough.
So fast.
Fortunately. And then now this year has been a lot about generative AI in image creation and its uses in text as well, and how people...
And voices.
Yes, voice work. Yep. And how studios are considering applying that to games, how workers are, you know, defending their livelihoods and their expertise from those systems, and how it can, you know, if and how it can be used in an ethical way that we all agree is more valuable than detrimental to games.
And I think the answer right now is no.
Yeah, it does feel that way, at least in the easy to reach, like immediately picked answers has been, a lot of dabbling with replacing artistic abilities in many different forms. And there's probably another way that we could use it to making games more efficient and better than that. Well, but that conversation will continue into next year for sure.
Yeah, it will. I mean, Steam introduced the policy now where you have to disclose if you're using generative AI and what you're using it for, right? And I've noticed a lot of smaller games are using it for like their splash art, you know, their like product page artwork. I've noticed games using it again for voice work. Liar's Bar was a game that had like 5 minutes, again, like a 15 minutes of fame thing. And that used generative AI for voice work. And, you know, people said if you get actual voice actors in to do these, it'll be so much better. And yeah, it's definitely, it's a conversation. It is a conversation. And I think, you know, unfortunately, compared to like metaverse and blockchain and NFT stuff, generative AI is something that isn't going away. Yeah. Don't know how I feel about that. But yeah, I think it's, you know, there are always going to be developers that use it in an exploitative way. And I hope that we can maybe find, I don't want to say a compromise, because you should never compromise on like real people's artistic work, right? Especially when a lot of this is the only reason it can work the way it does is because it's feeding off of real people's work. Yeah, like existing work that real people have put time and labor into creating. I think you're right. Going into next year, I think that will become a bigger topic of conversation, and we'll see how bigger developers do or don't latch onto that. You know, we already Krafton has been exploring it in their they've got Inzoi coming out, which is like using a 3D printer mode, they call it, where you can take a picture and turn it into a 3D model. And, you know, they're exploring ways to use AI. You know, bigger developers are going to be figuring this out, and I guess figuring it out in a way that doesn't make everyone fucking hate them immediately. It's definitely, I think it will be a big conversation in 2025 for sure.
Yeah, tangentially, because it sort of relies on the concept of, you know, machine learning and these things, but are games getting both bigger and smaller simultaneously right now? And I don't mean that in a negative way. I mean, like, I think we're seeing games and studios that were previously creating like giant handcrafted open worlds are now accepting that people actually would prefer something slightly smaller and more curated. Like, not everything needs to be a Ubisoft, Assassin's Creed
Collectathon.
size collectathon. Yeah, you can make something smaller and way more intentional, and people will really jive with that. And then on the other end, you have like Hello Games, formerly of No Man's Sky, soon to be of Light No Fire, right? Light No Fire.
Yeah.
Whenever that comes out, continuing to experiment with making like enormous generated worlds, and how that comes out, we'll see. But it feels like we're in this weird phase of handcrafted things getting smaller in a good way, and other things getting bigger in like an interesting tech way, and accepting that like that weird middle ground of enormous handcrafted things is not necessarily like it's slightly untenable and not efficient, and maybe nobody needed it anyway and it was okay. Like, so like, yeah, I think next year we're going to continue saying that, like, even bigger generated things with smaller handcrafted things, and maybe that's great for all of us.
I agree.
Yeah. Any other trends, like big overall trends from the year that you wanted to talk about?
That's a good question. Like, I guess the more unfortunate one, we touched on it at the beginning of this year. Layoffs are still happening. They're still happening with like a frightening frequency, I guess. We literally just had some, Deck 9, the Life is Strange double exposure developer, they had some more layoffs this week. Oh my God, another developer had some layoffs this week. I'm trying to remember who it was.
Torn Banner we talked about recently. There was yet another one between those that neither of us are coming up with. Yeah, that sucks that there are enough that we can sit here and look at each other and go, oh, I forgot one of them already, which is frightening.
It's still happening. I think there hasn't been quite as many on the scale as what we saw. I believe the Activision one was last year, right?
You're challenging my memory.
It was like 900 people, I think. I believe that was last year. So I think we haven't had as many on that scale, but we've definitely seen a lot of
cumulative,
like mid-size or smaller studios dissolving or, downsizing significantly. In a way that is a real shame. It's hard to make a game in 2024, and I feel like it's hard to make a game and make a profit in 2024 as well, which is why we're seeing like so many live service games as well, right? Which is still continuing to be a trend.
Yeah,
people are
live service games continue.
Yeah, and they're not all bad. Helldivers 2 is a prime example of a live service game that is not bad. We also
and I are playing Infinity Nikki.
We're playing Infinity Nikki, which is a live service game. Both of us are having a great time. Then, you have games like Suicide Squad, which did not need to be live service at all. They took what could have been a single player game and put it in a live service model, right? And that has not proven to be very successful for them.
Yeah.
So I wonder, like, if people are going to continue with live service games because it is maybe the most effective way of making money these days, or whether, I feel like people are getting kind of tired out on them. I feel like people are getting a little tuckered out.
You can only support so many at any one time, right? Yeah. I mean, it's not... audience for games is not a completely zero-sum game. Every person, me, has room for several things that they're like mainlining at any one time. But yeah, you can only support so many. And I hope, because you already mentioned Dragon Age once, like with the Veilguard, I hope we're done with seeing large developers attempt to pivot an entire series to live service. As we know, that's like part of what made the Veilguard what it is that early in development of Dragon Age 4 that would become the Veilguard. It was dictated that it would be a live service game. At some point, they rolled back from that and said, never mind, it doesn't have to be. And then we got the Veilguard, which I think the consensus, like among fans and like mine as well, is that you can still see, like, if like you can feel the ground and go, a live service was here. Like, like you can track it sort of. I mean, I think they did their best, and there are things I really like about that game, but I think if you know the history and you know how that game was developed and the multiple reboots that it went under, you can
obvious.
Yeah, you can tell where that was extracted. And so I hope other games don't have to go through that process, and we can keep our single player games single player and admit that those have giant followings and people really enjoy them. Things that happened, like just quickly, PC Gamer stuff that happened this year. We did another 2 showcases, and we've talked about those with the PC gaming show this summer during like the showcase season, a really big show. We also did the PC gaming show Most Wanted again this year, which was us counting down the 25 most wanted games by us and our like council of industry voters, along, and in there between the top 25, lots of other trailers for stuff you've never heard of or wanted to see updates on. So that was great. And we did, as usual, our top 100, had a whole podcast episode about that too. And I think all those things together, our showcases and the top 100, I felt really good about. We specifically talked about it during the top 100 podcast episode, how good a mix there was in the things that we were showing there of like weird little indie games, big blockbusters, old games, new games, stuff you've heard of, stuff you haven't. That feels really good, is that we're still in a time with PC gaming and gaming in general where like that's like what our team is into, and what people at large are into is like, you can have Balatro and you can have Helldivers and then you can have, I don't know, like a new Monster Hunter game coming out in February. Right. And all of those things might be like equally great to people. So that feels good.
Yeah, for sure. Very cool.
Stuff that we also wanted to go back. We did this last year as well, and talk about our first podcast episode of this year in January, where we made some resolutions. We attempted to predict some things that were going to happen in the year, and we've like touched on a little bit of that already. But I did go back and watch our January return episode to see what we had predicted from this year. We did a bad job. We sure had no idea. As we said, this year was so unexpected, and we didn't even know what to expect, and we still like couldn't call a single shot because this year was so weird. We made resolutions. What was your resolution, Molly, for this year?
My resolution was to spend less time at my desk.
Did you?
I believe I did. Yeah, I think, the Steam Deck helped. Also, on account of just like, I went through a little bit of time where I just wasn't playing anything. I was only playing games on my phone, which is still playing games, but I wasn't really playing at my desk. And, I went through like big changes this year. I moved out as well. Like I moved places, and gave myself some space where I didn't always have to be at my desk. I could be like on my couch or, chilling in my bedroom. So I think I did spend less time at my desk overall. I don't feel as burnt out on video games as I did last year. I don't specifically know if that's like because of not being at my desk as much, having the option to play on my Steam Deck. I think having my Steam Deck has helped me play like a wider variety of stuff. Mm-hmm. Again, stuff that I wouldn't have sat at my desk to play, like Metaphor, like Fields of Mystria, like a genuinely like fantastic game that is perfect for the Steam Deck. I think that like it was a big help, and I'm glad that I don't have to be like chained to my desk to enjoy games anymore, especially when we spend so many hours of our day already sat here working.
My resolution was to play one new game, not finish, but just play something new every week. Did I do that? No, I did not. I started strong.
You started very strong. You kept that for like a good while.
As you do with resolutions.
Yeah.
I started strong and then fell off somewhere. I did well like into February, maybe even March. And then I don't know what happened. Oh, I do know what happened. I went to GDC. And then after I got back from GDC, Sky Children of the Light came out on PC. Oh, yeah. And I talked about that a lot on the podcast. The cozy MMO from the people who did Journey. And then I played a lot of that for like I think I have almost 200 hours on it or something like that.
Ooh.
From only this year. Where is it in my library? Hours played. Where's Sky? Yeah, it's near the top. 131, so not quite 200, but that's all this year, and it's already 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, my or something most played game on Steam. So yeah, that threw a wrench in me trying new stuff every week. Whoops. But had a great time. What about our game of the year predictions? We acknowledged in January, we were like, there's no way to predict the game of the year this year. And our game of the year, you won't start seeing those for a little while yet. That happens like right at the end of December. And as we're speaking right this moment, the Game Awards has not happened yet. So we don't know what their game of the year is either. But I think we can still safely talk about like what we thought was going to be big this year and say that no, it wasn't, because we were like, we're not even close. So Molly, what did you say?
I think I had mentioned Dragon's Dogma 2. I don't think I was very confident.
No, but
in saying Dragon's Dogma 2, and I guess like I said earlier, people played it. People definitely played Dragon's Dogma 2, but even like my own partner, who is obsessed with the first game, absolutely loves the first game, has like hundreds of hours in it. I barely heard a peep from him about Dragon's Dogma 2. He was like, yeah, it started out great. Because I asked him about it the other week. I was like, did you finish Dragon's Dogma 2? And he went, yeah, he was like, I finished it. And it started out good. He said, but by the end, I was kind of over it. Which, like, I don't know if that is like a overall consensus among people who played that game. But I do feel like it's one of those that got forgotten about quite quickly.
Yeah.
I guess.
The original kind of gets billed as a bit of a cult hit. So maybe despite all of the excitement, it's still going to be kind of a weird slow burn that people talk about a year from now or something like that, more so than in its release year. I don't know. We'll see. I was so terrifyingly off base with the things that I called out as like game of the year potentials, or just like things that I thought could be big this year. I mentioned Avowed, which right call, but as mentioned, it delayed into February, so that didn't happen. I said it could be cool if Nightingale was like this year's Valheim, the crafting survival game that everyone got into. It was not. I did not love
People
Nightingale.
did not like that. Yeah.
I love the concept, but some of the ways that like going to different like realms worked made it hard to get into and stay into. We've had a lot of like experimentation in the crafting survival genre in the last couple years, with like Icarus as well attempted that like run based thing, and I was like, no, I don't like that either, because why are you making, I want to build a base and keep my base. And they like later put in a mode where you could do that, and Nightingale kind of had that same effect.
I think we did some interesting interviews with the Nightingale folk around the initial reception to that game that you can go and read.
Yeah. And instead of that, Pal World was the crafting survival game that everybody went bananas for at the beginning of the year.
For a little bit.
And then my long called shot, like I pointed at the stands and I was like, what if Bloodlines 2 comes out this year and it's great? I knew that wasn't going to happen. And sure enough, it didn't happen. Is it even going to come out next year? Who's to say? We have no idea.
Did we know that
see Bloodlines?
Did we know we were getting Shadow of the Erdtree at the beginning of the year?
Ooh, that's a great question. Yes. I feel like it maybe got revealed like at the Game Awards last year. Maybe. I don't remember when the reveal for it happened
either. I feel like, again, maybe it's just my circle. I feel like, again, that is one of those that I didn't hear like huge amounts about, like nowhere near to the extent that I heard people talking about Elden Ring,
original, like, the main base game,
which is strange because I think Shadow of the Erdtree has been received quite well, right? It's up.
Everybody
for game
on our
of the
team
year.
that played it loved it. Yeah, it's up for Game of the Year in the Game Awards. And as you're hearing this conversation, you'll now know what happened.
May or may not have won.
we don't know the answer right now. but it was like, yeah, super, super well liked. But I mean, I was going to say as it goes with expansions, but like that's not what we saw with like the Cyberpunk expansion that very much completed its redemption arc. Or I don't know, we had one other like extremely good expansion not too long ago, but that's the one that sticks out in my mind right now is the Cyberpunk
the
Edge Runners.
Starfield expansion.
No, not Edge Runners.
Also came out this year.
Yeah, it sure did. That was more Starfield.
That was
that was more Starfield.
Another forgotten, already somehow a relic of the past. And actually, I think something about, PC specifically is one of the biggest games of the year, a game that I have seen so many people talking about, didn't come out on PC, Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. I have seen, again, another game of the year contender. We don't know if it's won yet. Well, you will now, but we don't know here now. But that game, like, I have seen so many people talking about it. I haven't played it myself, but I've seen a lot of chatter about that. Again, that's probably just my circle because of being, a bit of a JRPG sicko. But that hasn't come out on PC. Astrobot, another game that was like, that has been beloved and is also up for Game of the Year, wasn't on PC.
Yeah.
So like, I wonder if Rebirth will come out on PC next year. And I wonder if it will be an Epic exclusive. And I wonder if it will have the same issues the first one had. I don't know.
We also like predicted games that we were personally excited about coming out.
Yeah.
What did you say for that when we talked?
I had initially said Tekken 8 because that was coming out like within
soon,
weeks. I had said Tekken 8 and Dawn Trail, and it's funny because like I enjoy Tekken 8. I don't enjoy who I become when I play Tekken 8.
Fair.
Tekken 8 is like my full like toxic era game, I guess. So I stopped playing that a few months in. I kind of took a back seat from it because I was like, eesh, I don't really enjoy playing this that much right now. So I stopped playing it and I haven't really gone back to it. I do occasionally, and I'm still like very into the FGC, and I've been keeping up with a bunch of the tournaments that have happened this year as well. But it's not really been like my game, I guess. And then Dawn Trail again is like such a weird one. People were excited. It's the first expansion of a new narrative arc. They wrapped up their like first narrative arc in Endwalker. And then Dawn Trail came out and people didn't love the story. The dungeons are great. The actual like content stuff has been really enjoyable, but the story was like such a huge letdown in a way that I think has kind of tainted the reception to that. Yeah. And I think that, it's kind of funny because WoW, The War Within came out as well, right? And I feel like the two games have done a bit of a switcheroo. Like when Endwalker came out, WoW players were like coming over because they weren't happy with where WoW was at. And now WoW has like really redeemed itself. I think it's really, it's made like a very, very impressive comeback. And I've seen, people from my guild in Final Fantasy playing a lot more WoW recently. Yeah. So maybe there's a little like switcheroo that's happened. I don't know. So yeah, I guess like, both games are still good, but maybe just not in the way that I was expecting.
Yeah. My game that I said I was most excited for was Like a Dragon Infinite Wealth, the 8th Yakuza game. Did I open it even once? No, I didn't. It's installed on my machine, shaming me. No, I love the Yakuza games so much, and I have talked about them on this podcast a lot. There is an effect where you can get burnt out on the Yakuza games because there's so many of them. And I like started binging them in 2020 and like continued on my deep abiding love of them into like late 2022, probably early 2023. But like in 2023, when we got the Ishin remake and we got Man Without a Face, Man Without a Name, whatever the Kiryu spinoff was. Didn't touch either of those. And then the momentum continued, and Infinite Wealth I didn't pick up, even though I loved Like a Dragon. Now we've got Pirate Yakuza in Hawaii coming out. Another spinoff deal is that also in February? I think it's also in February.
Maybe.
Yeah, I didn't play it at all. So I'm just not in my second wind of Yakuza yet, I don't think.
You'll get there.
I will eventually get there. The other thing that I did mention, though, was Fields of Mystria. I was like, I think I'm really excited for Fields of Mystria. And that was right. I played a lot of Fields of Mystria. So did you. It was very popular. It's still in early access, but it is the, heavily 90s anime and 90s farm sims mashed up together. Harvest Moon and Sailor Moon, as it were, legally distinct from both of those things. And it's great. It's great. Fields of Mystria is great. And I hope I'm going to spend my break like going back and playing the new update for that. Probably on my Steam Deck. Yeah, I think that's my plan. We also talked about developers to watch in this year.
Yeah.
I think those were both also busts for us. So
yeah. I think I said Paralives, and I didn't even keep tabs on what the Paralives folk are up to. They're still toiling away over on Patreon, so
yeah,
they're just doing their thing. Maybe 2025.
Maybe 2025 will be the year of the life sim. We'll see what happens. I said IO Interactive and the James Bond game. That didn't materialize. It wasn't scheduled to. I just was like, maybe. And I mentioned it again when we talked about developers to watch in 2025. One of these years, I'll be right. And I also mentioned the action RPG that Moon Studios did. Is it called No Rest for the Wicked or something like that?
Oh, maybe.
It's something like that. And the fact that I've forgotten its name tells you a lot. That didn't really make a splash, I don't feel like. At least not with me personally. I barely touched it. So, whoops, that wasn't a good call either. But, such is how things go. So that's most of what we talked about, in our beginning of year podcast, while we were predicting the year. Lots of other things that happened this year. Yeah. It was a weird 2024.
It was. But Lauren, what were your personal favorites?
Oh, my personal favorites this year? I think, let's see. I already mentioned I played a ton of Sky, Children of the Light. I did. And I played a lot of Fields of Mystria. What else did I do this year that was a favorite of mine? I think those were kind of up there. And The Sims 3. I was really happy to be getting back into The Sims 3. I'll probably talk about that more at some point.
Not a 2024 game.
Not a 2024 game.
2009 game or something. Yeah.
It's fine. Don't worry about it.
Don't think too hard about it.
You put me on the spot, so maybe that answer is wrong,
so
but
okay. I think for me, for 2024 stuff, I think that's been like a personal highlight for me this year. Definitely Metaphor ReFantazio.
Yes.
Genuinely fantastic game. Had such a blast. Loved that game. Had a great time. Fields of Mystria. Yep. Absolutely loved it. Will continue to play that. They put out an update recently and I haven't returned to it since that happened, which I need to do. Balatro as well. Balatro. I played a bunch of Balatro at one point. And Infinity Nikki, the nice latecomer to the party. Also, really, really enjoyed my time with that. It's been nice this year, actually, even though it's been weird. It's been nice. I've played some really just nice games, and it's been cool. It's been a bit of a Mollie year, I guess. There's been some really nice Mollie games that have released. Oh, and web fishing as well. I've been having a great time with web fishing. Yeah, this little social fishing MMO that is kind of reminiscent of the old chat room games of the 2000s, except way gayer in the best way. Way gayer, less toxic. It's been great. Yeah. Just a nice little year. I think it's been cool. I've had a great time.
Yeah. My other favorite of this year was doing the podcast with you, Mollie. As mentioned up at the top, of course, we're taking a bit of a hiatus from the Chatlog podcast. And we'll see you when we see you in whatever form it takes in the future. Bigger, better, whatever it turns into. PC Gamer has a history of starting, stopping, rethinking, always wanting to have a podcast. And it's, always been a shoestring podcast a lot of the time. So I think we're very excited that maybe whatever you see next from us podcast wise may not be on shoestrings. It might be
bigger, better.
It might be cooler. Bigger, better, and fully supported. So that'll be really exciting. As for... So go ahead. That was all me talking.
I was just going to
say something.
I was just going to say, like, thank you, I guess. Thank you to everyone who's listened. Yes. We've been doing this. This is the 100, how do you say that?
101?
101 episodes. 101st, 101th. This is the 101st episode. It's kind of crazy that it's been over
almost
100
2 years.
Episodes. Yeah. It's been almost 2 years, over 100 episodes. And yeah, when we started this, we were kind of feeling it out. We're not presenters. We're both very anxious, I guess, and shy sometimes. Yes. And, a lot of this 2 years has been spent kind of feeling it out. And, to the people that listened and watched and, came back every week, or maybe like this is your first episode, I don't know. Like whatever, just like kind of thank you for listening. Thank you for thank you for being with us. We didn't have like the biggest audience, but like it didn't really matter. Like the fact that people even did want to listen to us talk about everything is really cool, quite frankly. So I hope that we get to come back and talk to you guys some more in the future.
Yeah, we've had a lot of good conversations with you and me and with different team members in a way that we don't get to do on PC Gamer in this format very often. Like I said, podcasts were not part of our main diet historically. We're very much, we write words on a website because we're all writers. So getting to see different members of our team in this format, having conversations and talking about stuff they're really knowledgeable about in this format was great. Produced some great short form video clips of people's very impassioned monologues on this podcast. So that's been great too. So as usual, you can find us writing on the website at pcgamer.com, all of our usual news, reviews, guides, opinions, all that great stuff. And you can talk with Mollie and I about this week's episode, the final for the year, wrapping up 2024 on the forums at forums.pcgamer.com. So thanks, Mollie. Thanks for doing the podcast with me.
Bye, everyone. Thank you, everyone. Bye.